Honestly, it's amazing movies get made at all. Millions of dollars sunk into an endless amount of moving pieces, schedules, exec notes, director's notes, script rewrite, reshoot, sequel connection. Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed. Sometimes all that time and effort goes into scenes that end up on the cutting room floor. And the money. Won't someone please think of the money? We did. Here's what you never saw and how much it cost for you to not see it. Hey, producers, when money is spent on massive reshoots, I suggest we refer to that budget as a rogue one.
Thanks.
Yes, the first anthology film in the Star Wars universe ended up being a success. That doesn't mean there are a lot of set pieces that we're ever gonna see. Director Gareth Edwards was famously replaced by Tony Gilroy for reshoots and rewrites after the first cut, for a reported $5 million on his pay alone. Any rampant Star Wars trailer nerd is aware of the shots in the trailer that aren't in the movie. What was that TIE fighter gonna do to Jyn though? It was revealed by Edwards that originally he and screenwriter Chris Weitz worked on the assumption that Disney wouldn't allow for a dark ending, and the film actually ended with a wedding. Jyn and Cassian got away, K2SO was killed directly at the hands of Krennic, and the now infamous Darth Vader kicking rebels in their khaki cargo scene, according to the writer, that was a later invention. Ooh, while we're on the topic of rogue budgets, let's talk X-Men Days of Future Past. Most X-Men fans are acutely aware we did get to see some of the scenes in the Rogue Cut, which reinserts Anna Paquin's Rogue character back into the film. Paquin's story was originally cut out due to the amount of subplots and characters between multiple generations of X people. Cutting her out of the film, however, came with consequences, adding 2 weeks of reshoots, and even the Rogue Cut doesn't contain the whole story. With a reported $200 million budget, the estimated cost of these deleted scenes comes up to over $22.5 million.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
Theatergoers will never know what they're missing, but even Rogue Cut fans can admit it's easy to see why the character was removed, as the added 17 minutes really slows down the final act and kind of raises more questions than it answers. Well, why did the Sentinels keep her alive? Oh well, I guess sometimes it's just nice to see old friends.
It's clear now.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me we built a time machine to go back through 5 weeks of shooting to replace the lead character? This is heavy. Well, nobody's gonna call Robert Zemeckis a chicken because he and co-writer Bob Gale wanted Michael J. Fox from the beginning, but began shooting the film with Eric Stoltz due to a disagreement with the head of Universal. They made a deal that if they were wrong, they'd let them reshoot all the scenes, and after seeing the dailies, Universal held to their word. The full Eric Stoltz scenes haven't seen the light of day, but pieces can be seen in behind-the-scenes documentaries years later. He's a magnificent actor, but his comedy sensibilities were very different than what I had written with Bob. Zemeckis was left to make what he described as a heartbreaking decision to send the crew back to the future, which also cost the studio nearly $9 million when adjusted for inflation. While the execs thought, "Great Scott!" Zemeckis knew to say, "I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids are gonna love it." You'd be forgiven if you thought the massive scale of World War Z seemed a bit tapered down for a nice, quiet ending. That's because after the insanity of the non-stop zombie pileups in Jerusalem, the war was meant to get much bigger, with Brad Pitt's Jerry making it to Russia to join an anti-zombie army for a massive battle across Siberia. This version also had his wife leaving him and turning to prostitution just to stay alive, with Jerry trying to make his way back to America. So that's a real bummer, and somewhere out there, that bummer exists. Until Paramount asked for the entire third act to be reshot. This ended up costing nearly $25 million because none of the original third act could be salvaged. Real talk, why would you cut rugged Russian Brad Pitt monster battles for weird bitey fella in the lab? We can have symbols of hope in other movies. I know. Here come the Snyder kids. Everyone knows the story of Justice League was a troubled situation from the start, as it was supposed to be a 2-part Snyder epic until the Batman vs Superman Batlash. Reportedly, WB had $275 million spent, and then when Joss Whedon came in to take it and, I don't know, make it, quippier, more red, Those reshoots added another $25 million. $300 million and this is Superman's lip? Anyways, when WB came back to the JL well for the Snyder cut, the Wrap reported another $70 million was spent because they had to not only complete parts of what had been shot by Snyder, but reshoot and alter the story to fit a brand new Frankenstein version of Zack's original vision. Inevitably, some of what had been originally shot didn't make it in either storyline. Release the cut from Snyder Cut. Or don't. The Goonies is the epitome of action-adventure, but apparently the water slides, secret caves, and Mama Fratelli weren't enough, because in the original version, when in the lagoon, the kids are attacked by a giant octopus. Data puts an 80s Walkman in its mouth that it vibes to and then kind of just leaves them alone. Were 80s cassette players waterproof? Anyways, distributors cut adult content for TV rights in the 90s, and they put the scene back in temporarily to make up for the airtime. It took a couple days of footage with an underwater unit, which adjusted works out to over $500,000 for the random octo attack. Now when Data mentions it to reporters at the end, it makes a little more sense. We're not gonna spend too much time here on He Who Shall Not Be Named, Kevin Spacey. But after it came out that Slimeball's gonna slime, the film All the Money in the World decided it could spend some of that money to replace the space, with the ace acting of Christopher Plummer. When the film was well into post-production, director Ridley Scott made the decision to reshoot about 20 scenes in just over a week at a cost of $10 million. And honestly, money well spent, as Christopher Plummer ended up getting an Oscar nom. So the lesson is, if you're gonna spend all the money in the world, it helps if you use it to do the right thing.
So much to think about.
Granted, Die Hard 2 isn't as pricey as some of the others, but this story is weird, so we love it. Before John McClane came back to our screens, Fox had a product placement deal to feature a Black & Decker cordless drill that was brand new, and in exchange, the film got $20K for production. McClane was supposed to use the drill to remove a vent in the airport scenes, and Black & Decker was gonna market ads around its release. It was shot, but the director cut the scene and Black & Decker was not happy, suing for $150,000 in damages. Only John can drive somebody that crazy. For classic film buffs out there, let's talk Wizard of Oz. Before the monkeys take Dorothy, there was a scene with the Wicked Witch letting loose a Jitterbug on the whole gang. The bug was like a giant colorful mosquito that stung them and made them break into a 6-minute jazz number. The big song and dance was cut because if you just listen to that description, it's kind of a big what, and it took a lot of time. The scene cost almost $1 million if you adjust for today's dollars, and only exists from a home video shot by the film's composer. Lastly in classics is Liz Taylor's Cleopatra, known as one of the most rocky film shoots in history. They built massive sets in London, but were forced to do it all again in Rome when production had to relocate. Taylor nearly died on set and had to have surgery, and the first cut of the film was over 6 hours. Fox made them cut it down to 3, and then 4 hours for home video, so we lost more than a third of the scenes at a cost of what would be more than $120 million today. Well, you win some, you lose a lot, I suppose. At least these films actually made it. Look up the 1993 Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie that was paid to have prints of the film destroyed. And while bootlegs exist, I guess the list of pricey whole films we never got to see is a video for another time.